네, 안녕하세요. 매일매일 운동하기를 실천하고 있는 동탄 왕코입니다. 오늘은 토요일 3월 13일입니다. 맞나요? 3월 13일 뉴스에 날짜가 안 나오네요. 오늘 약간 흐려요. 이거 다 미세먼지인가 이거? 해가 떠서 날씨는 포근한 것 같은데 날씨 하늘이 맑진 않네요. 오랜만에 주말 이틀 쉽니다. 어저께 잠을 한 12시간 잤어요. 12시간. 12시간 잤는데 몸이 엄청 뻐근합니다. 주말 이틀을 온전히 휴식을 해야 좀 몸이 나아지지 않을까 생각을 합니다. 하지만 또 월요일부터 다음 주 토요일까지 또 일을 미친 듯이 해야 돼요. 자, 일단 오늘 스트레칭 위주로 운동하고요. 팔굽혀펴기를 최대한 많이 해보는 걸로 하겠습니다. 아침은 선식이랑 커피 한 잔, 라떼 한 잔, 블루베리 한 컵을 먹었어요. 이 운동이 끝나면 또 선식 한 컵이랑 블루베리 한 컵을 먹을 겁니다. 블루베리 한 컵이라는 걸 컵에다가 블루베리를 담아서 먹는 거죠. 하하. 일단 운동하겠습니다. 역시 운동할 땐 CNN이죠.
Look, I mean, I think, there is a widespread view in the Democratic Party that in 2009, Barack Obama didn't go big enough in the stimulus and in a search for a few Republican votes, had to cut it substantially, and they've avoided replicating that decision. And there's a view that he did not sell it enough after, and now they are truly avoiding that decision. There is a belief among many Republicans that no one's going to remember this bill by the fall of 2022, and I suppose it's possible they won't remember a lot of the details. But the reality is that this bill is going to be tied to the return of normalcy. And that is the real potential political impact here in terms of this bill being seen as part of
the process in which
you got your life back.
Right. Ron, hold on. Isn't that a good sign if people don't remember it by the fall? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because it means that life has returned to normal.
Exactly. And the ability is, like, unlike a bill that comes and goes, this can be seen as part of this dynamic in which you got your life back under this president. And by the way, there is going to be a big fight next year on making this child tax credit permanent. I mean, this is an enormous expansion of kind of the social safety net, the creation of a child allowance that has tangible benefits, not only for low-income families, not only for black and brown families, but for a lot of middle class, working class, white working class families who are the core of the Republican base. And I think Democrats are going to be very aggressive next year in saying we have delivered in a material way while Republicans are kind of feeding you cultural resentment about Dr. Seuss and the border and cancel culture. And I think that's going to be a really interesting test whether they can cut into those super Republican majorities among those voters by delivering on their material needs.
Mr. Showtime executive producer, I think we all need to, instead of just a segment on this show, we need a show together. Can you work on that, please? Mr. Circus. Kick it. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Be safe. Governor Cuomo says that he won't resign, but that was before two of the most powerful Democrats in his state said that he should. That's next. Stay with us.
I believe that Fukushima is a truly special place. The earthquake changed the lives of many people, but the strength here to never accept defeat is truly incredible. I want the whole world to know about Fukushima and its resilience.
I make a kabeko, a traditional doll that has been made here in Aizu since long ago. COVID-19 has made many things more difficult, but I'm hoping that these akabeko can help us all be strong and overcome this pandemic together.
We're using measures like temperature checks and hand sanitizer. We're still up and running, and visitors are participating in our safety measures.
There were excellent measures in place to prevent infection, so we were able to just relax and enjoy our visit.
We suffered a lot of damage during the earthquake and were forced to close for a while. We worked together to resolve those difficulties and reopen. COVID-19 presents new challenges, but I believe we can all overcome them together.
어. 아니 일본 올림픽 하는 건가? 방송 어떻게 나오냐?
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
와 스트레칭만 해도 땀나면 돼요.
When you travel the world, make sure the world travels with you. Check in, log on, and get connected with all of the latest developments at your fingertips. CNN Partner Hotels, connected to your world.
They've been coming across sniper fire, gunfire. You can see how intense it is. I have to wrap it up right now.
They feel like they won't be able to outrun the war.
They thought the whole border was open. These doctors have nerves of steel.
You can't help but be struck by how interconnected our world is.
Arwa Damon, CNN.
I'm Ben Wiedemann in Rome, and this is CNN.
Some of the most powerful Democrats in the country adding their names to the list, calling for New York Governor Andrew Cuomo to resign over multiple allegations. The Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand saying that Governor Cuomo has lost the confidence of New Yorkers. 16 of the 19 New York congressional Democrats in the House all urging the governor to step down. You see them there on your screen. Now another woman accusing him of sexual harassment is speaking out. Former Albany reporter Jessica Bakeman alleging in New York Magazine he would often touch her without her consent. She describes an incident at a 2014 holiday party, writing this: "He put his other arm around my back, his hand on my waist, and held me firmly in place and said, 'I'm sorry. Am I making you uncomfortable? I thought you were going steady.' I stood there in stunned silence, shocked and humiliated, but of course, that was the point." Governor Cuomo today again denying he harassed anyone, saying he will not resign.
I did not do what has been alleged, period. Look, it's very simple. I never harassed anyone. I never abused anyone. I never assaulted anyone. And I never would, right?
So joining me now, CNN political commentator Errol Lewis and CNN legal analyst and former New Jersey Attorney General Ann Milgram. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Good evening. Errol, the governor Cuomo, says that he is not going anywhere, but he's facing an enormous amount of pressure to resign now from Senators Gillibrand and Schumer. Is this reaching critical mass right now?
Yes. On the other hand, we don't know what critical mass really means. We're about to see potentially a real experiment, a kind of a political science experiment in how far you can go in actually governing if you don't have any partners at the state, federal, or local level. Because it's, make no mistake about it, Don, it's really across the board. The mayor of New York City called for him to resign today. Our U.S. senators, just as you allude to, a large chunk, including much of the leadership of the state legislature, saying the same thing. The state controller came out today. Can the governor do his job without cooperation from these people? We're about to find out. I think he may have more ability to do so than some of us might think. The governor of New York is a very powerful figure, any governor, and can do quite a lot, even if other people don't want to talk to him, even if there's not a lot of coordination. The people who might be hurt, of course, are the 20 million residents of the state.
Do you think the governor's going to try to ride this out, no matter how bad it gets? Because this is what I'm hearing, Errol, is that people are saying he shouldn't resign, but he should say he's not running again.
That's his last card, frankly. You know, I mean, if this is a game of political chess, he's losing pieces by the day. That might be his last move. That might be his last piece that he could play. To sort of say, but the momentum may have gone too far, frankly, at this point. When folks say that he cannot govern, in a way they're saying, you're going to have to do this without us returning your phone calls, without us cooperating in any way. There'll be a much smaller version of being the New York governor that you'll be confined to, and if that's what you choose to do for the next year and a half, then that's on you. But there is, in fact, an election next year. The governor has said that he's going to run for re-election. He hasn't said anything to the contrary, but you know he's running out of bargaining chips. And again, that's that last chip. Perhaps if he says, I'm going to go quietly, I'm not going to run for re-election, which frankly the polls say most New Yorkers are okay with that idea right now, he may get something in return. But that's, you know, it's not something he's even alluded to at this point.
And I want to read more. This is from Jessica Bateman at New York Magazine. Said, he wanted me to know that I was powerless, that I was small and weak, that I did not deserve what relative power I had, a platform to hold him accountable for his words and actions. He wanted me to know that he could take my dignity away at any moment with any inappropriate comment or a hand on my waist. As a lawyer, what do you make of her allegations?
Well, one of the things, and Don, I've handled a lot of investigations, internal investigations into sexual harassment, including a significant investigation into the Dallas Mavericks basketball team that spanned 20 years of sexual harassment, potential sexual harassment conduct. And so when I listen to something like that, that feels to me like really, it gets to the heart of why this is wrong and why sexual harassment is just so insidious in offices and workplaces, because it is about power, it is about control, and ultimately it's about diminishing the ability of a woman to go to work and to be able to work and be treated like everyone else and to be judged purely on the merits. And so I think that's a really important statement, saying, look, it might not seem like a lot, a hand on the shoulder, a hand on the lower back, but all of this, when you put it together, was meant to exert power and control over me and to embarrass me. And I think when you start to look at all 6 of the women who've come forward with allegations, you really do see that sort of similar line going through them. Again, there's an investigation taking place. These are allegations at this point, but it is really significant to me.
Just a quick question for you, Ann. If he's facing investigations, including possible impeachment, can these women possibly end up testifying? We could end up hearing from them?
Yeah, so I think one of the fascinating things about the Assembly saying that they're going to open up these impeachment hearings is that would be public. And so it's different when you do an internal investigation like the Attorney General Tish James is doing and has hired outside lawyers to do. That investigation will be done in private with a public report at the end. So we might not see a report for 2 or 3 months. But if you think about the Assembly moving forward with an impeachment investigation, we could see the Assembly holding hearings with those women coming forward to testify. And remember, Don, that's only the women we know about. Now, part of the investigation would be to find out, was there anyone else?
And Errol, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. From Republican senators' racist comments tonight to Meghan and Harry's allegations of racism within the royal family, very public conversations about race making their way into everyone's living rooms. Stay with us.
Life is about the choices you make, the actions you take. Ending modern-day slavery starts with a pledge to spread the word.
Every human deserves the right to be free.
Let's make a difference. Help stop human trafficking. It's time to speak up.
No one should be deprived of their freedom.
Take the pledge and join us for My Freedom Day, Tuesday, all day on CNN.
Dream, visualize, and be bold. When the sky's the limit, these business pioneers stop at nothing to innovate.
My t-shirt is made from recycled plastic bottles.
Shaking up trends and reinventing landscapes.
Our big idea is turning desert sands into fertile soil.
From producing an oasis in the desert to new frontiers in high tech. See the power of ideas in action. Think big. Sunday on CNN. All new African Voices Changemakers. Create opportunities. Impact communities. Transform lives. For these conservationists, saving endangered animals requires community participation.
It's my job to make sure that there is a good relationship between the park and the communities around.
African Voices Changemakers, only on CNN, in association with Glow.
Have you been bitten by the bug of curiosity? This is CNN 10. My name is Carl Azus. I'll be your explainer-in-chief.
Global news.
International relations are the key factors. Relevant stories. Everyday people whose action is changing their community.
Complex issues explained.
We're going back to the future.
And 10-second trivia.
You get a perfect 10 out of 10.
All in 10 minutes. Stream at youtube.com/CNN10.
تحياتنا للأصدقاء في النجوم. يا ليت يجمعنا الزمان.
If we could introduce ourselves to an alien life form, what would we say?
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
Здравствуйте, приветствую вас.
What you're doing is something very important, because you are trying to make contact with another civilization.
Both voyages carry a copper phonograph record. A message. Celebrating the sights and sounds of Earth.
I was looking for images for 100 different topics. Agriculture, families, science, medicine. Sports was only one, that if you were to choose one sporting event that was global and perhaps most representative of humanity, it would be the Olympics. And if you were to choose one athletic that was basic to all sports, probably running.
And what if the athletes chosen to represent humanity were never told, and they didn't learn the truth until decades later? This will outlive our planet. I just wonder how you feel about that.
Wow. It's just not something that you can wrap your mind around, but your heart can and your imagination can.
This is CNN.
So you want to know how to have a conversation about race? You're about to experience it right now, okay? Harry and Meghan's bombshell allegations of racism in the royal family rocking the UK, but forcing a long overdue reckoning with systemic racism. Here in the US, we have made strides, but racism is still a problem people of color face every single day. We need to talk about it, okay? That's what my new book is about. This is a Fire. It's all about that. But listening to people like Senator Ron Johnson makes me realize that we really have a long ways to go. Joining me now, CNN political commentator Mitch Landrieu, the former mayor of New Orleans from my home state. So we're about to have two Louisiana boys, I can say that, natives, talk about this thing. Thank you for doing this, okay? Let's show people how to do this, all right? From the deep South, where we know what's up. Ron Johnson on the insurrection. Listen to this.
Oh, man.
I'm also criticized because I've made the comment that on January 6th, I never felt threatened. Because I didn't. And mainly because I knew that even though those thousands of people there were marching to the Capitol were trying to pressure people like me to vote the way they wanted me to vote, I knew those are people that love this country, that truly respect law enforcement, would never do anything to break a law. And so I wasn't concerned. Now, had the tables been turned, and Joe, this got me in trouble. Had the tables been turned and President Trump won the election, and those were tens of thousands of Black Lives Matter and Antifa protesters, I might have been a little concerned.
Does he understand? Does he?
Oh, I mean, look, you almost, if he wasn't so banal, you'd have to feel bad. That's a lost ball in high weeds right there. Now, think about what he just said to you. He just said that a bunch of white guys that stormed the Capitol, that were beating police officers with the American flag, were patriots and love their country. And then he said black people who were peacefully protesting scared the hell out of him. That's a scared white man. And that's a guy that's just really confused. You know, look, listen, white people in America, many white people, think that racism is an overt hostile act between individuals when they're judging them on race, and that is true. And somehow don't really understand or are not willing to look a little bit further into the issue of systemic racism. How you create systems that treat similarly situated people differently because of the color of their skin. And of course, if you have any African-American friends at all, or if you ever listen to black people who are, by the way, exhausted that white people can't get this and continue to ask black people to help them to understand it because white people won't do the work, then you begin to understand the pain and the agony of them having to wear their blackness every day. And white people, not all white people, but many white people don't want to understand it. When you have a guy like Ron Johnson, who occupies a position of one of the 100 most powerful people in the world, expelling that blather from his mouth, it makes it really, really difficult in the country to have a thoughtful discussion about it, as painful as it is for all of us.
Okay, so I think you answered some of this. If you're a white person in this country and you want to have the conversation and you don't know how, and you want to change and you don't know how.
Well, there are a lot of people that do, by the way. And I do think that the cancel culture is a little rough. You have to give people a way to get to you. I think white people also have to understand that African-American people have expressed many times a dismay in having to educate their white friends. There's a huge amount of information now, especially in the last year, since George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. People should be curious about this. There's a reason why the African-American community is so upset, justifiably. And white people who really care about this ought to really try to do everything they can within their power to think about this, to try to understand it, to try, as Wynton Marsalis encouraged me to do one day, to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and to try to understand, because there's a reason why there's upset, and there's good reason for it. And racism continues to be in this country our Achilles heel. And if we ever could get past it by going through it and understanding each other, we'd have a much better chance to be the America that we all say that we want to be.
Okay, so here's the thing. So what I say in my book, I said that you just said you have to be curious, right? That white people have to be curious, and instead of being judgmental. So, and I say in my book that get a friend that doesn't look like you, right? And then, but I hear people saying, that's so hard, that's so hard. But it's not hard.
Well, let me say this. If you see a black guy, it depends on where you live. There are lots of people down in America, white people, that don't live anywhere where black people live. And I guess in that instance, it's hard. But like if you live where I live in New Orleans, you'd have to walk across the street from somebody intentionally, not to walk by somebody that doesn't look like you, because we're a very diverse place. But be that as it may, even if you don't live in proximity day to day with it, given the availability of information that's out there, you have to start asking yourself, well, if people are so upset, why are they upset? If they say that I don't understand things, what is it that I don't understand? If they say that I didn't learn my history right, and they tell me that the GI Bill really treated people differently, or redlining occurred, or that maybe that what happened at the Colfax riots is different from what I learned, wouldn't you be curious to know whether or not your classes actually gave you the kind of tools you needed to survive in a country that in 2040 is going to be majority minority? Wouldn't you want to think about that? And I think that in this country, we say that diversity is our strength. We say that we come to the table of democracy as equals, but I think sometimes patriots, and Jimmy Baldwin told us this, as Eddie Glaude Jr. reminded us, that being a patriot is questioning your country exactly because you love her, because you want to hold her to the highest standard, because you really believe in this sense that out of many that we are one. And if it's true, and you look at what's happened to George Floyd and Derek Chauvin and this awful thing that we're going through right now, when do you think enough is enough? And so I think that black people want white people to engage and to say, I'm here and I'm present and I want to understand because I love you too. And I think that you're equal to me and I want to lift you up and not put you down.
Yeah. Look, I think anywhere in the country right now, no matter where you live, you'd have to walk on the other side of the street to not have interaction with a Hispanic or Latino person or a black person or an Asian person or someone else who does not look like you. I think there's always someone in the carpool line or the school line or on your kids.
Somebody serving you food, somebody coaching your kids, somebody working on your house, somebody cutting your grass.
Would you like to come over this weekend for a barbecue? Would you like to?
Just say, hey, mister, can I talk to you for a minute? People will talk to you.
Yeah.
Reach out. Open your heart up, open your hand up. You're going to learn something. You're going to meet a new friend. And let me say this, by 2040, this country is getting majority minority. Yeah. And so you can ignore that fact, or you can say to yourself, listen, I have something to learn from that and something to enjoy from it, and I'm going to be better because of it. And John, you're from the South and I'm from the South. And I happen to think that if we would ever get it right, we could just blow the roof off of the potential in this country. And if we don't, we're going to continue to be alienated, where there's no peace. It's going to be hard, for us to get together. And I just think we're missing a wonderful opportunity. And we ought to lean into this rather than lean away from it.
Wow. Sound like you've been listening to me, or I've been listening to you, or we've been friends and talking to each other.
I can't wait to read your book, but I bet you I know what's in it.
You know it. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it. I love you too. I'll talk to you soon. Miss Landrew. Who that?
See ya.
My new book, This is the Fire. What I Say to My Friends About Racism, coming out. It comes out next week, the 16th. So I hope you can check it out. Next, another smackdown for Tucker Carlson after his misogynistic military comments, this time from a top leader of Space Command.